Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town ran with Space Cadet Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans. From a diehard Houston sports fan, I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan podcaster. Of course, feel free to add as many additional qualifiers to that statement to make it true. I am a creative multi-hyphenate, actor, writer, but most importantly, I'm a proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. That's right, I'm the jester they named TC Jester after. I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in Los Angeles, and now, well, I'm podcasting. We all have podcasts in LA. That's the law here. Look, good day, mates, and bienvenidos to new listeners. This is a comedy/Houston sports show. We try not to be too emotional, hot takey, or a ridiculous sports guy here, just a regular ridiculous guy. We try to remember that we've elected to be sports fans and enjoy this life as best we can in this wild world. Shout out to Cat Stevens. On today's episode, the Astros winning streak comes to an end. The Rockets winning streak continues. Jordan is on pace for an MVP season, knock on wood. Keep this man healthy, sports gods. However, the Astros are currently without Issac Paredes and now Hunter Brown. Why, oh why. I'd like to welcome returning listeners and welcome new listeners to what my brothers call the Paul Broad Pod Ball Blog. Hey, brothers. They're both Milford men. Sorry, I heard something in the background that really distracted me. Shout out to my brothers. Shout out to Arrested Development fans. And shout out to the subs on the Substack. Check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience, depending on your interpretation of my mumbles. As always, we're recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined by my co-host and co-producer, The Roz. To my Frasier, Carla the dog is here with me, folks. Listeners of the podcast know that she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on this podcast. And welcome to our new producer, Baby Katarina, who is also allowed to chime in whenever she wants. You know, our motto this season, we listen to women on this podcast. Let's get to it. Look, got to be honest with you. It is a typical noisy day outside here in Los Angeles. On top of the girls, on top of the producers, you might hear some helicopters or neighbors. Look, that's how it goes here. This is a passion project, right? I try to soundproof things as best I can. I try to use the best recording equipment that this new dad can get his hands on when he's not napping or taking care of a baby. So, folks, let's get to the Astros games. What we're going to do in this podcast, we're going to talk about our previous series the Astros had versus the A's. We're going to talk some Rockets. This week had a lot of games, and we're going to talk about the upcoming series that starts as of the recording of the podcast this evening against the Colorado Rockies. We have a lot of things to talk about, so let's just dive in head first. The Astros lose their first game to the Oakland. Oh, my bad. Look, they're the Sacramento A's. No, they're not even the Sacramento A's. You're not supposed to call them that. You're just supposed to call them the A's. The once Oakland A's and future Vegas A's. Either way you split it, the Astros lost to them in their first game of this series, 4-11. It was a tough one to watch. There were a couple really tough games to watch in this series. This one for a different reason than the third game. We'll get to that, of course. But in this game, Christian Javier, you know, a lot of people are down on him. Here on this podcast, if you're wearing a Houston jersey, we're cheering for you. But we have to admit, we do want to be a little, realistic, I guess. Christian Javier did not look like he was in his best form since he's been in an Astros jersey, that's for sure. But he did look like he was improving, at least based off of his previous performance. He was throwing pitches with a little bit more velocity. However, he wasn't exactly throwing pitches that one of the highest chasing teams in the league would bite at. I think really when it comes down to it, Christian Javier needs to throw closer to the zone to get some swings. But obviously, if you've seen how hard some of his pitches have been tattooed, he also needs to throw pitches in the zone that they can't get a good swing on. So his velocity taking a little bit of a step up is an improvement. However, the command of the zone was just not there in this game. We can get to it a little later, but we got a lot to talk about. But honestly, we're hoping that the pitching staff can help Javier in this game. He went 3 2/3 innings, giving up 6 hits, 6 earned runs, 5 walks, and 2 strikeouts. A little unlucky for sure, at times. Baseball's a game of inches. Shout out Al Pacino. She's got a great A. This team, they're a pretty good A. Honestly, it was frustrating because there are multiple moments in this game that could have really had us telling a different story, with Javier getting almost out of the 4th inning with a 4-1 deficit instead of this blowout. In the 4th inning, if you watch those games, you know that Yainer Diaz missed this pop fly that was incredibly frustrating. Just barely missed it. He could not track the ball that was popped up, a couple of feet from the plate. And this minor league ballpark in Sacramento has driven a lot of fielders crazy. Not just the Astros. We saw some rough moments for the A's in this game. The fact of the matter is this is a minor league ballpark. It is not very tall. It doesn't shield from the elements, whether that be the sun or the wind, very well. And Yainer missed a catch that really should have been made. And because of that, the 4th inning trotted along. And the next thing you know, the A's had 11 runs, and all of the starters in this game were being pulled, whether that's Christian Javier or Jordan and Altuve and Correa. It was a tough blowout. Even earlier in the 3rd inning, Cam Smith missed a 2-out catch by like an inch or so. He almost had it. It just, sadly, that's the way ball goes. You got to have talent and luck. Sadly, in this game, the Astros did not have much of either. It was very frustrating to see. I really think if Javier got out of that 4th inning and pitched a little into the 5th, not only would this game potentially be more favorable for the Astros, but we might not be having such a downer conversation about Javier today. After Christian Javier was lifted from this game, Roderick Munoz came in to pitch again. It was another tough outing by Munoz. He pitched 1 1/3 of an inning, gave up 4 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and 2 home runs. Honestly, in this game, I see why they picked him up. I can see, I was critical of him a bit in his first couple of outings there, but I saw his stuff in this game. And this guy has been definitely stressing me out on a small sample size. And if the Astros cut him, he goes back to the Cincinnati Reds because he was picked up off of waivers. So the front office has to be sure that they don't want him with the team before if they send him down to AAA. That's why Roderick Munoz has the mop. But like I said, the man hasn't been too great. At the same time, I have seen flashes of greatness. I have seen that live arm that he can have, and he definitely had a great spring, and I see the upside here is what I'm saying. However, if he can't do mop-up duty for the Astros, I doubt he can play his way into the rotation with all the arms that the Astros have at this point. And this was with all due respect to Roderick Munoz. I'd be okay with him leaving the major league team and potentially give him back to the Reds there, even though he could develop into a good arm. I think we have a lot of a lot of talented arms and hopefully talented arms on this team. I do think he's going to get a couple extra opportunities, maybe one here in this Rockies series to kind of see if he can stabilize and kind of carve out a spot for himself in this bullpen. But that's yet to be seen, and I know a lot of people are frustrated with his performances so far. All I'm saying is I see the upside on this kid. I think he can be good, but with all the arms the Astros have right now, I could see that they want to use, call up another arm from AAA instead of keep him on the team. We'll see how long of a leash he has after probably one more outing. After Rodrigo Munoz pitched in this game, we had Ryan Weiss come in. Weiss pitched 3 innings, gave up 3 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, and 2 strikeouts. And I think this is, so far in this young season, this is a guy I really like. Him and Kai Tang are starting the season off really great. I really think there's a potential for this guy playing his way into the rotation with outings like this. And on top of that, he seems like a good dude. And this is something I wrote before major injury news happened with Hunter Brown. So I think there's a bigger opening for Ryan Weiss to get into this rotation. I said he's a good dude because he's been a good teammate. He had Tatsuya Imai over for dinner during spring training to kind of help Tatsuya get acclimated and talk to him about adjusting to the league. The team in this game was 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. As I mentioned earlier, their starters were pulled and the youngins were up in the game, but they were able to put up some points. In this game, you had 2 hits for Yainer Diaz, 2 hits for Nick Allen. But with 10 strikeouts as a team 10 strikeouts as a team and 5 walks, it wasn't the right ratio. With the long road trip ahead, I understand it, getting the young guys in there, but a tough loss after the A's pulled ahead. Announcers for the A's were saying that they had great hitting, great pitching, and great defense. But honestly, I thought they had great hitting and pretty solid defense. Their pitching was a little sus. But, they definitely held the Astros offense in check. And that's one of the hotter offenses in the league. So, a little bit of credit where credit's due and tip your hat there. Issac Paredes was not in this game as this was the first game of his bereavement leave. And of course, we don't know exactly what's happening with Issac Paredes, but we send him all the love we can. And we're going to get to the rest of the games here in this series. Got some more Rockets talk up ahead as well. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
Welcome back to the podcast. It's Space Cadet Sports Podcast with your host, Paul Salazar Jr. Happy belated Easter to all who celebrate. And check us out. We're trying to be more active on social media. You can check us out at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram for updates and an occasional meme. Check us out on there. Let's talk about the second game of the series. The only game I really am excited to talk about. The other ones were bummers. Astros losing this series 1-2. I got a little overexcited and I called for them to sweep the A's, which I thought was honestly possible. The way the Astros offense has been rolling, the way that the Houston Astros pitchers, kind of what we kind of expect out of them. However, the pitching just wasn't there in the series, but it was in this game. Tatsuya Imai bounce back game, baby. We are here for it. The offense also bounced back in this game as well, obviously with 11 runs. Tatsuya was 5 2/3 innings pitched with 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts. He had an absolutely sick slider in this game, but I think, honestly, it's a thing, too, where some of these sliders that were called were Vulcan fastballs or split fingers. Honestly, I think the tracker doesn't really know what he's throwing quite yet, and I mean, neither does the opposing hitters. You saw Jeff McNeil just shake his head a couple of times, like, what did I just see? Seeing Tatsuya Imai bounce back like this fills us full of hope for him. Right now, we need some solid pitching especially with Hunter Brown out. So seeing a game like this from Tetsuya was very, very welcome for this Astros fan. After this game, Tetsuya Imai said that, actually, I believe it was Brian McTaggart that said the Astros took him immediately to the showers, and in Imai's words, they had a champagne fight after the game to celebrate his first win. I'm sure that's a little culture shock for Imai, just seeing champagne being sprayed everywhere. I'm sure it was a lot of fun, though, as well. I know his teammates were there for him to celebrate him and pick him up. You love to see the clubhouse vibes on a team like this. At one point in this game, I believe it was in the second inning, the umps lost track of the count, partially because of the Sacramento scoreboard being faulty, which is interesting. But I only called this out because Joe Espada called out the umpires and they fixed it. And, just last week we were talking about why Cam Smith had a 3-3 walk against Boston, and Correa said the umps should be better, which I agree. Yeah, of course, if it happened against the Astros, I'd be frustrated. But also, a point that I mentioned last week was, why didn't Boston know the count or say anything in that situation? So I'm glad in this situation, Joe Espada called them out and that the umps were apologetic and fixed it. After Tatsuya pitched in this game, Kai-Wei Tang came in for 2 and a third inning, gave up 2 hits and got 3 strikeouts. Just an effective outing from Tang. Get used to some multi-inning bullpen outings this season with all the pitching depth that the Astros have. Well, had, but they still have some. We'll talk about that a little more later. After Tang left the game, Steven Okert came in to close the door with 1 inning pitched and 1 strikeout to end this 5-hit shutout, caught by Christian Vasquez. So that was good to see. This team offensively was 7 for 22 with runners in scoring position. It was definitely a tough game. In the sense that the bases were constantly loaded, and Carla and I were waiting for a salami all series long. I mean, come on. Definitely a little frustrating, but winning 11-0, soothes that pain. You can't complain about the offense too much lately. This team is showing that they can create traffic on the base pads, and we're here for it. Winning 11-0, you don't worry too much about 7 for 22. They did create opportunities and get some runs in, but as we can see in the next game, getting a couple more hits with runners in scoring position is always welcome. In this game, there are home runs by Christian Walker, and is Walker back? Is Walker back? Question mark, baby. He was 3 for 5 in this game with 2 RBIs, 1 walk and 1 strikeout. Joey Loperfido, Jolo, also hit a home run. He was 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs, 2 runs, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. Pardon me there. Cam Smith hit his second home run of the season with another solo bolo in the 8th. Yainer Diaz was 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs, 1 walk, and he was a DH in this game, which DHing was kind of a problem for Diaz last season. But with 2 catchers on the roster and no third catcher there, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of DH opportunities for Diaz, as most likely it will be Yordan Alvarez in DH, and then one of the infielders, most likely Issac Paredes, being a DH the other 50% of the time. So he got a tap for DH and did well. In this game, there were 4 2-out RBIs, extra base hits, homers, lots of traffic. Hopefully we can keep this offense going strong, not just against the A's pitching staff. There was 17 left on base, but still, what a game. You love to see it. Just good from top to bottom. We needed a dominant win. It was feeling pretty, we were all feeling pretty sad about the Astros after that first game. Well, at least we thought it was one of the lower parts of the season until the next game on Easter Sunday. The Astros lost just a tough Easter game, 10-12 in extra innings. Yordan hits another dinger in this game, his 4th on the season. Yordan went 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs, 2 walks, 2 strikes. And Walker hit his second home run. He was 1 for 5 on the game, 2 RBIs, 1 walk, and 1 strike as well. sorry, I should say one strikeout, obviously. Jake the Rake, he's starting to get a little more consistent, and in this game, he hit his first home run of the year. He was 2 for 4, 1 RBI, 1 walk, and now starting to get a decent batting average again, as it started off pretty low this season. We even saw Joey Loperfido start in center. I think Myers has a lot to play for this season, as there are a lot of outfielders behind him, and they're looking for some flexibility. So if he's starting to struggle, I don't think Joe Espada is going to mind pulling him from the starting center. What am I trying to say? He's not going to be too shy about sitting Jake Myers, is what I'm trying to say there. In this game, there was hits all around, honestly. Altuve was 2 for 4, 2 runs, 1 RBI, 2 walks, and a strikeout. Correa was 2 for 5, 2 runs, 1 RBI, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts, and a big hit in extra innings to pull ahead 10-9, but it just wasn't our day. And Correa, a lot of people are saying, like, he's still, is batting with bases loaded. Him and Altuve had a lot of opportunities with bases loaded in this series, but Correa still had a pretty good series, even though he didn't always get the big hit when we would have wanted him to, and he definitely had the big hit in this game. Cam Smith was 2 for 5 in this game with 3 RBIs, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout, and tied the game in the ninth with a big hit as well. Nick Allen got the start in this game. Jeremy Pena played back-to-back games in the first 2 games against the A's, but the third game, they let Nick Allen start. It's because we're in the middle of this big road trip. You kind of can't have it both ways. Astros fans, you complain that the medical staff isn't taking care of the players and that everybody's rushed back too soon from injury. But then when they're trying to give Jeremy Pena some rest, you're saying, why isn't he starting every day? You really can't have it both ways. They're trying to be really cautious with JP3. So even though this ended up being a loss, they didn't have Issac Paredes for the series. Even though they pulled Jeremy Pena in this game, I'm here for it. I want him to rest. I want him to be 100% healthy because this team looks to be special if they can keep everybody healthy. Nick Allen, in his stead, was 1 for 3, got 2 runs, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. I wrote a piece on Nick Allen, and I hope that I can publish it in the next couple of days on the Substack. Be on the lookout for that. Allen has had a pretty good start to the season offensively, but he is very much defensive specialist. I'm just happy that he is creating things with the bat. But I think these lines sometimes are not going to be too consistent for Nick Allen. The team went 4 for 15 with runners in scoring position and left 12 on base. It seems moot to bring that up because it was not the offense's fault that they lost this game, in my opinion. They scored so much, it's not exactly fair to put this on the offense when the pitching should definitely wear the L. Carlos Correa also in this game steals his first base since 2019. That's back when he was still in an Astros jersey and back before Carlos Correa had kids. Yeah, kids are real. They drain you. No, I'm joking, of course. Kids give you dad strength, but maybe at the expense of your speed. Obviously, we're joking around, but this 2019 was before he was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. So, I think that kind of has made stealing bases a little harder for Correa. So, that is really what's happening there. But on top of stealing his first base, on top of getting some big hits when we needed them, Carlos Correa is also looking great on defense, particularly in this game, picking up McCullers at moments. Speaking of Lance McCullers, he had that great first start of the season. In this game, he was okay. He kept the Astros in the game, which is what we want of McCullers. He pitched 4 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, and 0 home runs. We were hoping for some more strikeouts. He was a little unlucky in this game, but also a little out of the zone compared to his debut. We're hoping for some more competitive pitches from Lance McCullers. But he still had enough to help this team get the W. Just really wasn't happening for the Astros in this game. Steven Okert came in to pitch a third of an inning. He gave up 1 hit, 2 earned runs, and a walk. Looked a little rough for what we expect from Okert, but we're hoping for a bounce back. AJ Bluebaugh was in this game and pitched 2 innings. He does look to be stretched out at times, but I think this season he is going to be more of a 1 to 2 inning guy. But this game was just not his game. In 2 innings pitched, he gave up 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 1 strikeout, and 1 home run. Just a tough day at the office for this young pitcher, but we expect more from him. Same thing with Okert. I think they'll bounce back, but every reliever is going to have an off day here or there. That's how it goes. Christian Roa pitched in this game. He was called up since Hunter Brown was put on the 15-day IL. He pitched 2/3 of an inning, gave up 2 hits and a walk. And lefty Brian King, came in and looked pretty good in a 1 2/3 of an inning pitch. Gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, and striked out 1 batter. He looked really good before trouble started. He was pulled in the 9th with 2 men on. Abreu gives up the grounder as he was called in for Brian King, but Altuve snags it and throws the runner out at home to keep the game tied. And at that point, it just felt like the Astros game. It felt like this was our day. We were going to take the series. But Brian Abreu had a tough day. He pitched 1/3 inning, gave up 2 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned runs, walked a batter, and gave up a home run and takes the loss. As he struggled in the 10th inning. He got out of that 9th, but in the 10th, he just, gave up the game. It's tough. To start off this young season, this is a small sample size, but he has a 22.63 ERA with an 18.95 FIP and a negative .5 WAR. So obviously, tough day for Abreu. He just didn't have the team overall just didn't have enough pitching and enough luck, which is not exactly what we expected we'd be saying this preseason. But here we are. Experts can get it wrong. I can get it wrong. All of you who are wondering why GM Dana Brown was signing so much pitching and not getting batters, now we kind of see it. Now we understand in retrospect what this great baseball mind was doing and why we shouldn't be questioning them too much. They needed to get some pitching in this game. It was just a tough one. And Abreu, a lot of fans are calling for him to lose his closer role. And I get the emotion. We try not to get hot takey and emotional here on the podcast, but I understand it. However, I don't think Joe Espada and the front office are feeling the same way. The real question is, how much can you trust Brian King to close these games out? And I know he's had some success, but he just really doesn't have the track record or the same stuff that Brian Abreu has. However, he is getting results. I'll give you that. He is getting results. So there may be some opportunities for Brian King to step up and get some saves. But I think it's still very much Brian Abreu's job, and King can help him when he struggles or when he needs some rest. I really do expect Abreu will keep the spot unless he keeps blowing some big saves here. But we definitely, no matter which way you look at it, we could use Hader back ASAP, that's for sure. He's looking to start throwing, I believe they say in mid to late April, we'll see when he's back. We definitely want him back soon. These A's play the Stros well, but the A's still play in a minor league stadium, so it just never feels good to drop some to the A's. We're going to take one more break, or at least we'll take another break here. We'll be back to talk some Rockets and to talk the Astros next series.
H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Folks, you have to bear with me. I am losing my voice. I am absolutely exhausted. Easter was great. I wanted to maybe get a podcast out, but I just needed the day off. And maybe I needed today off too, but we have so much to talk about. I didn't want to go another day without giving y'all a podcast. We got lots of Rockets talk to get to, so let's get to it. And please bear with my lack of a voice and lack of just general silliness. I feel like I feel the weight and the sleepiness on me right now. I'm sorry I'm not doing more ridiculous pop culture references that only 2 people get. I promise. I promise there's more of that to come. Let's talk about the Rockets. The Rockets had a couple games this last couple of days since the last podcast. The Rockets beat the Bucks 119-113 and swept the Bucks on the season. But this game was way closer than it had any business being. I definitely had some PTSD from some other coaching disaster classes from the season. Ime Udoka almost got beat by Doc Rivers and 7 guys. The Milwaukee Bucks only had 8 guys dressed for this game, and they had a player get injured during this game. And you got to give credit to the Bucks and Doc Rivers for having 7 players and really making this a game. Gary Trent, I believe, was a player who went down with an injury. So, hope they get better. Amazing that they were able to play as hard as they did. I felt like at one point, before the game got close, I was like, is this going to be like exhibition game rules where we're going to have to lend them Jeff Green so that one of their players doesn't die? I really give credit the spirit of the Milwaukee Bucks. But man, it made me so nervous this game when the Bucks started coming back. I was like, there's no way they can win this, right? In this game, Reed Shepherd had 9 3-pointers made. Definitely an amazing 3-point performance from Reed Shepherd. He's climbing up the ranks in Rockets single season history for how many 3-pointers made. We'll keep an eye on that as the games progress, how many he makes this season and where that stands. Another key piece that we've been talking about lately is Jae'Sean Tate's in the rotation. He's playing more games, playing more minutes. We're here for it. Look, Jae'Sean Tate, I feel for Jae'Sean Tate. We both, and those diehard fans like me, and Jae'Sean Tate, we've been through some tough Rocket seasons. Now there's some good Rocket seasons. We're glad Tate's in the rotation. At the end of the game, Şengün kind of scared us with a bit of a potential injury, but luckily he came back against the Jazz, and he's still been looking good. It looks like there hasn't been a huge injury there. The next game was the Rockets-Jazz, a blowout, 140-106 blowout. The Rockets beat the snot out of the Jazz, and this old head doesn't care if the Jazz are a tanking team. I love the Rockets putting it on the Jazz. Look, I know I'm Unk. I'm Unk. I'm chopped. I remember the 90s because that's when I became a Rockets fan back then. Back in my younger days. I know a lot of you weren't born yet, but if you were there, you'd hate the Jazz forever. That's just how it was. Even as an ally of New Orleans, I hate him even more. If you're old like me, you love to see it. And yeah, I know what unk means. I know what chopped means. I'm making jokes. Sometimes I got to make jokes at myself, be a little self-deprecating. That's how I am. People are like, oh, do you know what you're saying about yourself? Yeah, I'm being goofy. As an improviser for kids shows, I've had to be abreast of slang, and yet still know the classics. I've been an entertainer. I got to know the trends. I got to know that no cap is now passé. I got to know what the new slang is. I know that, as a character actor for a bit, I essentially was a choppelganger. Don't think I'm oblivious. I'm a clown. That's what clowns are, self-deprecating. I've told you. I'll make a joke out of myself for content. You can call it self-deprecating. Maybe I'll call it jokes maxing. All right, from a certain type of childhood. Look, in this game, Reed continued to hit threes. Alperen is just consistent. It's good to see him maintaining consistency, and it really does look like the team is starting to gel. Knock on wood. Luka is out for the Lakers for the season. Can the Rockets lift off at the right time? We shall see. Oh, I'm getting breaking news notification here. Yordan Alvarez is the AL Player of the Week. That's not surprising. The guy looks amazing. Just last night, the Rockets played Golden State Warriors, and it was a very close game. It was Seth Curry homecoming game in a kind of way there. The Rockets ended up winning 117 to 116. It came down to the final shot. It was very much back and forth in that fourth quarter there. The Rockets are now 49-29 on the season. And yeah, the Warriors are still a good team when Steph Curry is on the floor. It was almost another disaster class loss, but it was narrowly avoided. And I think this is now the time that I can safely say that most fans have lost faith in Coach Ime. And while the fans may be skeptical, are the owners, are the Fertittas willing to part ways with Coach Ime Udoka? I don't think they are yet. There was at one point Ime benched Şengün for basically taking an early shot, a three-pointer that is not part of the offensive game plan. And, this was when the game was close, and Şengün's been so good in this game, and you're just wondering, why are you taking such a principled stand here when we probably could use Şengün in that lineup? Also, some people questioned why he benched Reed in the last couple of minutes of this game. Shepard was out. Aaron Holiday was in, probably using Aaron Holiday for his defense. I get that. But Coach Ime Udoka is really catching a lot of attention from Rockets fans. And a lot of people are blaming the Rockets' woes, especially these fourth quarters, on the head coach. And that's how it goes. Ime Udoka has had success in Boston. I think there are things that he does that are successful, but he seems to be a little stubborn, a little regimented towards doing things the way he likes to do it. And I think there just needs to be a little bit of flexibility with this team right now. If expectations aren't met, whatever those expectations are for you, I think a lot of fans are going to be critical of Ime Udoka, at the end of the season. And I think a little bit of it is warranted. I don't think it means he's a bad coach all around. I mean, the Rockets have had plenty of good coaches in their history. Rick Adelman, obviously Rudy Tomjanovich. We've had Jeff Van Gundy. We've had Mike D'Antoni, who is now a Basketball Hall of Famer. Some of those coaches we needed to move on from because they just weren't a fit for the Rockets roster anymore and what the Rockets wanted to do. I don't think it, I'm trying to be like Ime Udoka is a terrible coach. I just think for what the Rockets need right now, there are moments where I'm wondering if he is the right man for the situation. Let's look at some quick headlines real quick before we move on. The first one here about the Rockets is the Rockets have clinched the playoffs earlier this week with the Suns' loss. So that kind of hand-wringing about a play-in, we don't have to worry about that too much anymore as they clinched. Another headline for the Texans they extended, not expended. Apologies there. Their kicker, Kaimi Fairbairn. So that's good to see. The leading scorer of the Houston Texans in their history is back. Obviously, the biggest headline is Hunter Brown on the 15-day IL for the Houston Astros, and oy vey, I'm hoping that we can get that man back sooner than later. We are not doing too good when it comes to pitching, so we hope to see him back sooner than later. And I did an article about this on the Substack that Carlos Correa doesn't take kindly to you hitting the Astros' best pitcher. Is he the chief of vibes? Is he the swag champ? And in the power rankings last week, the Astros were factored in pretty low, but this week they're bouncing up the rankings as people are seeing that their offense looks like it's for real. It's still early in the season, but they're coming out of the gate pretty hot, looking like they are not a team to be written off. Folks, we're going to take one more break. We're going to come back and talk about the Astros-Rockies series coming right up. I need to give my voice a little bit of a break. We'll be right back.
H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
Welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., here with Carlo the dog. Baby Katarina's sleeping in the other room. My voice is taking a vacation as well right now. I apologize. We're just going to try to power through this episode. I am going to do my vocal warm-ups and stay hydrated. Look, being a new dad, I'm learning a lot. Learning a lot about self-care. I think I need a nap. I think I need a gallon of water. But look, I love y'all so much. I had to do this podcast even though I am a shell of myself right now. I am a ghost of myself. I made Carla nervous when I said ghost. Let's get back to baseball, folks. The Astros Rockies are starting this 3-game series starting this evening as of the recording of this podcast. I had to look at my watch Monday, April the 6th. That's how you know I'm really in it. I look at my watch to check what day it is. Game 1 is tonight, and the Astros don't have Hunter Brown. So this was going to be Hunter Brown's start. Instead, they are using an opener, Cody Bolton, a.k.a. Sixlets. If you've been listening to the podcast, I say he kind of looks like Eminem. So with all due respect to Cody Bolton, until we have a better nickname for him, he's the off-brand Eminem. We'll call him Sixlets. He's the 27-year-old right-handed pitcher making his first career start in the majors. He started, I believe, in AAA a couple times. For his career, he's played 35 games. He's 1-0 with a 5.60 ERA, 45 innings pitched, and 45 strikeouts with the 178 WHIP. He just got a save against Boston where he went 2 innings with 5 strikeouts, and in those 2 innings that factored into a 1.33 WHIP. His scouting report says that he's known for his spin and his violent delivery, which is obviously a little troubling given his injury history. He may have some trouble with command. So because of that, he's more likely to be an opener rather than a guy you're expecting to go too deep into this game. But also that's something I assume. Maybe he'll surprise us. He really doesn't have, a lot to go on for that scouting report. We'll see what we get out of Mr. Cody Bolton. Sixlets, we're depending on you. He will be pitching against Colorado's Ryan Felter. Felter is a 29-year-old right-handed pitcher with a career 5.15 ERA. I have a number written down here in my notes. I don't even know what it means. I don't know what it means. I apologize. I wrote these notes late last night. So, moving on. He has pitched 342 2/3 innings with 295 strikeouts and a career 142 WHIP and a 4.2 WAR. So, Felcher's definitely been around for a while. He knows how to pitch in Colorado. Cody Bolton is pretty much an unknown. That can work for him if he can stay in the zone, I believe. But this series against the Rockies, I do expect some high-scoring games. The Astros pitching staff has struggled in this young season, and the Astros lineup has been hitting outside of their minds. So I'm expecting a lot of runs in these games, either way you look at it. This bullpen game later today, I'm really hoping that the bullpen is able to hold down multiple innings and not tax themselves, because this is, the second series of a road trip here. Of a road trip and of a big string of games in a row. So we're hoping that the pitchers don't exhaust themselves too much. Moving on to Game 2, Tuesday's game on the 7th. We're projected starters to be Mike Burrows for the Astros and Kyle Freeland for the Rockies. Burrows, it looks like he can be an inning eater for this team, and it does look like he could be a competitive eating inner for this team this season. In a limited sample size, it seems Burrows is using his four-seamer, his cambio, his changeup, and his sinker. Cambio is changeup there, and his sinker at almost the same clip four-seamer 22.5% of the time, his changeup 21.9%, and sinker 21.9% of the time. So those are his three main pitches that he's using almost at exactly the same clip. In the young season, he's 1-for-1 with a 5.91 ERA, 10.2 innings. 10 2/3 of an inning pitched, with 12 strikeouts, a 130 whip. He's got a 5.07 field independent pitching. He's been striking out 24% of the batters he's faced and walking 19% of the batters he's faced. So we're hoping that he can limit the walks and get late into innings. They're really going to lean on him in this series, I think, to eat some innings, because the bullpen is going to need it after the game one on Monday and the continuous onslaught of games going forward. Kyle Freeland is a 32-year-old left-handed pitcher with a career 4.53 ERA. He's 65-91 with 1,269 and 2/3 of an inning pitched, 952 strikeouts, and a 142 whip. His strikeout percentage is 18.6, and he's only walked 7% of his batters. With right now, I believe that is his season, not his career. 41.4% ground balls and a 341 whip. So, I think this left-hander can be a little savvy. We're pitching against some veterans that might know how to pitch in Colorado, but we're hoping the Astros can put their offense has been incredible. They can put hits on these pitchers and create some traffic. In Game 3 on Wednesday, the projected starter would be Christian Javier, but because of how Javier has been prone to some long flight balls because of his struggles, there's been whisperings that maybe Ryan Weiss could start this game. I think they would probably lean towards Javier because they're about to get into a 6-man rotation, and with Hunter Brown gone, they might need to see how Javier pitches, and even if this is a tough game, this might be his game to start. So I don't know if there's any truth to the rumor that Ryan Weiss will start in this game, as much as I just think people are worried about Christian Javier in this game. Christian Javier is off to a slow start with only 7.1% strikeout rating, a 21.4% walk percentage, and a 12.96 ERA. And yeah, those are high in limited sample size. His field independent pitching is 9.56. Just for reference, his career strikeout percentage is 26.6. His career walk percentage is 10.1. He has a career 3.91 ERA and 4.22 FIP. So not only has it been a slow start, it has been abysmal for Javier as he compared to how he has been. His ERA has been creeping up the last 3 seasons, and in the last 3 seasons, he hasn't pitched more than 40 innings. El Reptil is going to need some big adjustments this season, either way you look at it. His invisible isn't what it used to be. He is struggling with command. But while we are worrying a little bit, the season is young. El Reptil is a competitor, and we have a great pitching staff. I think there can be a rebrand with Javier and this pitching staff, especially because they're going to need it. And with Brown being out, it really doesn't help hide Javier in the rotation while in season. But he isn't exactly La Grasa when it comes to his, on-field demeanor. He's very chill. He's very stoic. I think that he can compete and go out there and kind of struggle without having complete, at least meltdowns, on the exterior. The fact of the matter is his four-seamer is not as effective as it used to be, and his usage rate has dropped significantly for that pitch. He's going to have to figure out a way to execute that fastball and to come close to the zone with some of his secondary pitches as well. The season's still early, and I still love this guy, but it does seem like there's a climb for him to get back to being as effective as he used to be and to solidify his place in the rotation. We're rooting for him here, and we're hoping for a bounce back soon. In this game, they'll be pitching. The Astros will be hitting against Michael Lorenzen. Lorenzen has had a tough start to this season as well, just like Christian Javier. Lorenzen's 0 for 1 with a 14.73 ERA in 7 1/3 of an inning pitched, 6 strikeouts, a 2.86 whip, 12 earned runs, 3 home runs given up, and 19 hits in 7 1/3 inning. So this could be a feast for the Astros hitting. Lorenzen's career, is a 54-56 career with a 4.6 ERA in 1,003 1/3 innings pitched, 832 strikeouts, and a 1.32 whip. He looks to be good at limiting walks and doing great with his ground ball percentage. The Astros will have to choose times to be aggressive with those mistakes that he's making. Obviously with Hunter Brown being out in the middle of this road trip, it looks like there probably will be a 6-man rotation coming. And it looks like Spencer Arrighetti is probably due to join the club. And I'm guessing either Roddery Munoz or Christian Roa will be sent back down or sent back to Cincinnati, if I'm guessing right now. But, I think that also will be dependent on how those two pitchers pitch their first couple of games here in Colorado to kind of fight for their lives to stay on the team. I don't even think it's time to jokingly bring out the panic meter. After the last couple games and last week, the team even increased where their standings were in the power rankings. But we need them to get a little healthier. Obviously, Hunter Brown to come back. We need our veterans to pitch consistently. We're going to need this pitching staff to do better and this offense to keep firing on all cylinders. The Astros lead the Major League Baseball in runs with 70 and in strikeouts with 109. They're second in batting average with 282, first in hits with 98, first in doubles with 28, first in RBIs with 64, first in walks with 61. They're first in walks. They're also fourth in stolen bases, first in OPS, and second in slugging. So this offense has been good. They need to keep it up, and I'm excited to see it. However, the other story is their pitching. They're 27th in ERA. They are first in strikeouts, which is great to see. They're striking out at an incredibly high clip. They just need to figure out how to stop getting these runs to cross. They're 29th in earned runs, 29th in home runs, and 28th in walks. What happened? So we're looking at that 6-man rotation going forward. We'd have to, if we had to guess here on the podcast, it's going to be Mike Burrows, Christian Javier, Tatsuya Imai, Lance McCullers Jr., Spencer Arrighetti, and Ryan Weiss. And if there's some struggles in that 6-man rotation, Jason Alexander is waiting in the wings if pitchers start to struggle. But there is a case here that they might do, a 6-man only briefly, or just, use 5 men and rotate Imai down every time, because he's still needing that extra day of rest as he's acclimating to the Major League 5-man rotation as opposed to the NPB 6-man rotation. So there could be an instance where they just go with 5 men and skip Imai and get him back in on his own timetable there. But, that also will get funky with veterans in there that would probably want to pitch get used to their system too. So there's really no telling what Joe Espada will do, but I would bet that it's going to be a 6-man rotation. And with those pitching struggles, if needed, Jason Alexander is waiting in the wings. And with that being said, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, share, all that jazz. We're a small podcast and only go as far as our listenership takes us. I'm breaking down, folks. We're supported by listeners like you, so please share with a Houston fan or Australian in your life and give us a 5-star rating. You don't have to give my voice a 5-star rating, but give the podcast a 5-star rating wherever you listen. Reach out on social media, like I said, or you can now call in on SpeakPipe and leave us a voicemail that can make the podcast if it isn't too crazy. That's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Remember to check out the Substack. I try not to put anything behind a paywall. I try to give everything out there as freely as I can. But look, I have Carla to give salami and treats to. I have a baby girl to buy diapers for. If you want to help pay the bills around here, buy some diapers, buy some treats, or hey, help me, buy some better recording equipment, or maybe get some throat lozenges. You can become a premium subscriber for a monthly fee or low annual fee on the Substack. Consider that to support the podcast. If you made it this far and you think I'm entertaining, you can find me making my weird jokes, arts, memes, and so much more. Yeah, that's right, arts. I'm not gonna apologize for it. At Paul Salazar Jr. is a social media handle. You can find me on Blue Sky, Instagram. That's mostly where I'm at right now. You can find my other Substack. Why not? My other Substack where I'm trying to write every now and then as well. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston, and abolish ICE.